So Clint, do you mind telling us about where you work and what you do for a job?
My name's Clint Robins and I work at Curramae Racing Stables in Ballarat. I started an apprenticeship in 1990 as a chef in Melton. I was there one night in 1994 when a fire broke out and managed to help 10 elderly residents from the building. As a result of that night, I developed PTSD.
Were there residents that weren't able to make it out that night?
Unfortunately, there were residents that didn't make it out, yes.
Can you tell us about the treatment that you received once you'd been diagnosed with PTSD?
I was referred to a psychiatrist at the Sunshine Hospital where I was admitted for mental assessment and medication reviews.
So fast forwarding then on your road to recovery, Clint, I understand in 2009 you lined up a new job for yourself when another disaster struck.
In 2009 I had a motorbike accident where I was riding my motorbike with my brothers as we did every weekend in the bush, and for this particular day, I'm not sure why, I managed to hit a tree. From the accident I received an injury called a brachial plexus injury, which is where the nerves are ripped from the spine and the right arm become paralysed. I received broken ribs, sternum and fractured vertebrae.
I understand that the surgeon told you that you'd never walk again. How did you feel when he told you that?
The surgeon did tell me that I would never walk again, and I said to him that I had news for him that was never going to happen.
And so I can see here that you walked here today. You're obviously not in a wheelchair.
No wheelchair.
Can you tell us how that came to be, that the surgeon said that you'd never walk again, and yet here you are on your own 2 feet?
A lot of rehab, a lot of hours in the gym, determination and stubbornness.
So once your doctor had agreed with you that you could walk again, what was the discussions you had with him after that?
The surgeon told me that I could probably be able to return to most sporting activities except for riding a horse. So I decided from that day on that I was determined to learn to ride a horse.
And so along the journey, you ended up becoming quite a good equestrian horse rider. Can you tell us when you first considered riding in a competition with Riding for Disabilities Association?
After I'd been at the club for a few months, it was mentioned that they were going to have this competition, a state competition in Dressage, and I was invited to compete in that competition.
So Clint, there came a time where you came into my office and threw a newspaper down on the table. Can you tell me about that newspaper?
It was a local newspaper that I'd seen had an advertisement for a stable hand at Darrenweir Racing Stables, where I knew Michelle Payne had won the 2015 Melbourne Cup.
So once Clint had identified that he wanted to work with Darrenweir Racing Stables in Ballarat, I gave them a phone call and just didn't stop talking until I was able to get through all of Clint's story. I didn't want them to cut me off and say that they weren't looking for anybody, or that it was going to be too difficult to work with Clint. And so I must have spoke for 2 or 3 minutes before I let them have an opportunity to respond. And their response was an invitation for Clint to come in for an interview the next day. Clint and I went for the interview together with Darrenweir Racing, and we were able to identify and discuss some of the barriers that Clint was going to face and the ways in which Konekt was able to assist. The employer immediately offered Clint a job starting at 12 hours per week with 3 4-hour shifts in the afternoon. To assist with this, Konekt sent an occupational therapist to go and do a worksite assessment to identify the roles that Clint would be doing, the functional demands of those roles, and what, if any, adjustments would need to be made. After 22 years out of the workforce, it took only a few weeks for Clint to build up the stamina and strength to complete full-time work in what is a very physically demanding role. So Clint, how do you feel to be back at work?
I feel great being back at work after such a long period at home. Every day is interesting and I feel a sense of belonging in the workplace.
So Clint, when I met you in 2016, you had just won the Victorian and Australian National Riding for Disabilities Association Advanced Dressage Championship. Can you tell me about your plans for horse riding at that stage and where they've taken you so far?
Some of the plans for the future that I have, I'd like to write a book on my return to work process, as well as become a motivational speaker to assist other people in their recovery with mental and physical illnesses.
Clint, do you have any advice that you can give to other people who may be going through similar situations to yourself?
My advice would be to get out there, give it a go, Be stubborn, dig your heels in and try your hardest.
I know certainly that yours is the first story that I share when I meet with new clients, just because it shows that anything is possible when it comes to return to work if you have the right attitude.